widespread dumping of garbage is unhealthy and dangerous to the environment.
And environmental effects of garbage. Numerous to consider. Garbage harbors vermins and disease-carrying agents such as mosquitoes. And one can reflect on the issue of chikungunya and other diseases such as malaria. We know the garbage cans, the empty drink caps, the empty drink cans, they allow mosquitoes to breed. And that is obviously will have an impact on the health of people in and around Georgetown, the city. Not only disease-carrying agents, but things like plastic, the PET bottles, they carry toxins, and they actually absorb toxins. They act like sponge, and when end up into the rivers and waterways, these toxins are released into the environment.
There is a better way.
They're looking at potential interest to set up a recycling plant in Guyana, and a very huge recycling plant. And that plant will actually accommodate all sorts of garbage, including waste from industry. We're looking at things like the paddy husks and so on, the poultry waste, manure and stuff like that, in addition to the bottles and the plastics and what's not. And converting these into products that they themselves can actually, sell back in the air. And there are also technologies that are aware, and the EPA is looking at that as well. When we're going out to our regular industrial compliance visits and so on, we're encouraging them to adopt green technologies. So, for example, a swine rearing operation can install a simple biodigester that collects the waste, and that is formed methane, and it can be burned and used as an alternative energy source. I mean, what we're doing is just now providing the opportunities for people to start thinking along these lines, and hopefully we can work out some form of fashion to encourage them to adopt those technologies.
Keeping our surroundings clean means lower health risks, less clogged drains, and a safe place for both business and pleasure. To help us achieve this, new litter prevention regulations are now in place.
The litter enforcement regulations were enacted earlier this year under the Environmental Protection Act. And it really represents a significant achievement, not just for the agency and by extension the Ministry of Natural Resources and Environment, but it's also a major achievement for Guyana because it represents to date the most comprehensive piece of legislation addressing littering in Guyana. Prior to the regulations being enacted, there were bits and pieces of legislation that dealt with certain aspects of littering in a piecemeal fashion, but there was no single piece of legislation that comprehensively criminalized litter activities and litter-related activities in Guyana. So in that respect, the regulations serve as a major achievement for the country. Under the regulations, deposit is defined very widely. So it's wide enough in its scope to cover a situation not only where a person actually physically deposits litter in a public place, but also where through their words or conduct cause litter to be deposited. So that would include situations where, for instance, a business person recruits a vagrant to dispose of litter and gives him no instructions in terms of where would be an adequate place to dispose of this litter. In that situation, the legislation envisages that the business person, and not necessarily the vagrant alone, is the person who can actually be issued with a charge. In the wake of the implementation of the litter regulations, I am extremely proud to say that we have seen much success in terms of our actual enforcement mechanisms. We have had cause to issue close to 100 citations under the regulations, primarily to business owners, authorizing them or instructing them to clean up their surroundings within a specified time frame or face the possibility of court action. Recently, we even had a situation where a business owner was brought before the purview of the courts and was made to pay $130,000 in fines, $100,000 for actually littering, and then $30,000 for attempting to bribe a litter warden. So in that respect, we have seen much success in terms of the actual enforcement mechanisms under the regulation.
We all have a role to play in protecting the environment. Stop littering. Do the right thing.